Hello everyone, welcome to the digital dimension. I haven't been posting in a while. I've been working in a couple of stuff that I hope to share with you guys on the next weeks. In the meantime, I've made this little website. It's hosted on Vercel. I didn't even care too much about the domain. I'll leave a link so if you guys are curious about this. And it's basically a comparison between Sol and Opus. I also have the 4.8 Opus Claude model if you guys want to see the legacy models. But yeah, so this is mainly a comparison between Opus 5 and Sol. So what I did was I made 5 prompts like this, for example, to create some websites, and the idea is testing the front-end skills of each model with and without skills. Why with and without skills, you ask? Because I noticed that when using Sol on Codex, if you don't use front-end skills, he seems to give you a wider variety of front-end designs, and that's an interesting quirk. But let's dive in. So here we see the 4 examples. On the bottom, Claude. On the top, GPT Sol. On the right side, with skills. On the left side, no skills. And this was all done using medium effort in each of the examples. So let's start with no skills and skills of Codex, so GPT Sol. As you can see, I think the design without skills is way more interesting. The cards have an interesting over effect and the website is overall well done. While the template, let's say that GPT Sol with skills chose, is a very basic thing. It's very mechanic. It's seen everywhere. And overall it's just not very creative. While on the Claude examples, we can see that the websites are both in a higher quality. With Sol, we see a big variance with skills and without skills. Without skills, the website I think is really good, but with skills, the quality goes down by a lot. While Claude with and without skills produces decent results, maybe because it's the difference in hardness between Claude and Codex. Some people are using GPT models on Claude and saying that they get better results than using Sol on the harness, which is Codex. And contrary to Codex, Claude seems to have a better example when using skills. So yeah, so you can see it has over effects here. It doesn't have over effects. And overall, the website is very well done, I think. I think that's surprisingly enough. And like, I don't think this ever happened, but I think that the Sol, GPT Sol website kind of wins. I think it's slightly better than the best that Claude made, which is the with skills one. So the right side one. If I saw both websites, so this one, top, bottom right and top left, I would like both of them. But my taste, I think I liked slightly better. But this one, the Claude with skills one, is also very well done. So overall, the quality of front-end designs across models is increasing by a lot. And we also have Kimi, which is a new model coming out that is also competing with these two models for good designs. So GPT went for a more editorial design with this one. Okay, so this is working. If you look far enough, you can see that some things aren't okay. So these separators that he uses on the bottom side are not good enough. And for food, for some reason, he joins both. Yeah, we also have the separator here. But overall, it's a decent website. He goes for the editorial look. The top bar doesn't have over effects. And yeah, you have a slight over effect on the cards. And with skills, Codex generates a very common, let's say, vibe coded thing. And for Claude, with no skills, he produces a decent choice. I think it's very similar to the previous one that we saw. While if we use skills to compare Claude, he produces also, I would say, a generic kind of website. So it's similar to this one. See, even the cards, the choice of cards is similar, but he built it slightly better than the version without skills. So that's interesting. But let's hide Opus and Codex plus scales so we can take a look at these two. So as you can see here, the filters don't have over effect on GPT Sol, and they have over effect on the Claude with skills. So yeah, I think this win goes for Claude. I still think that the template that they chose is very generic, but despite that, it's the clear winner. This one is kind of interesting. Let me just take a look at the prompt. So the overall thing here is that this is a small agricultural business and farm owners use it to track crops, etc. I think that this gives the feel of a dashboard. That's why GPT went for a dashboard, and it's done, but it's incomplete. As you can see, if you try to go to other tabs, it doesn't work, just gives you a warning. The models also don't work. And with skills, the tabs don't work, but you can click some things, which is interesting. So yeah, so both Codex with and without skills went for the dashboard, and as dashboards go, they are not poorly done. But interesting enough, Claude decided to do like a normal website. It has, I would suppose this is some kind of like screenshots or mock-ups of the dashboard itself. But yeah, they actually work. So if you click things, yeah, proven sign. So yeah, so it's actually working. And this is with no skills. They even have this diagram here. So they didn't go for a complete dashboard, but they have like this landing page and they show how the dashboard would work. And with skills, it goes for this different kind of style and fonts and buttons. The buttons are more square than rounded, etc. But they also do the mockup for how the dashboard will look, I suppose. And yeah, if you see both of them, they are the same idea, just they were done differently, which would make sense, right? It's the same model. I think this will depend more on how you interpret the task. If you interpreted that the user wanted the dashboard, then GPT Sol would have done the dashboard. If you interpret that the user wanted a landing page to show the product, which is the dashboard, then Claude would win. In terms of UI and UX, the Claude models are way above the GPT models because some overstates don't work. Most of the fields you can't do nothing, you can't interact with it, while the Claude models you can click things and state changes. And now on to the next one. As you can see, GPT Sol with skills on Codex just goes for the same websites over and over again. Just image and text on the hero section, while the no skills GPT Sol produces something very interesting. When I reviewed this for the first time when I was alone, not recording, I found this website really interesting by Sol. I think this is one of the best websites that I've seen GPT Sol do by a large margin. The overstates are very stylish, the filters are working, and the rest of the website is also well done. And interestingly enough, the first Claude model goes for a very generic template that he also uses all the time. This is very similar if you compare with the other websites that he has done. And with skills, Claude goes a little more similar to what GPT Sol has done. More like of these very colorful and with cards that pop out of the screen. Overall is very, 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 very interesting. And so I hide the two examples that weren't as good just so that we could see the best ones. And yeah, I guess this will depend more on taste. GPT tends to go smaller for the website, so it only has like 4 sections, while Claude does way more sections than he should. Maybe he should. I mean, it's his interpretation. He also likes to add a frequently asked questions area. The footer and the top nav bar all have overstates, which is something that I saw that GPT Sol with and without skills does not do. So as you can see, it has very well done overstates, while GPT does not have. But GPT had done these cards, which are the over animations are really good. Claude also takes this one because it also has the pop effect. The animation is slightly more simpler, but I think it does the job, and the buttons are all animated, while on GPT Sol the buttons aren't doing much. Even these ones here, even the filter ones don't have an over animation. So yeah, you can clearly see that maybe there's the harness that you use these models affects them, and it will be interesting to test Sol on a different harness to see if it does better UI designs, or maybe using different skills, trying to use the exact skills that Claude is using. But I'm not sure if the master prompt that they have on Claude also affects. So even if we will use the skills, maybe he wouldn't produce the same exact product. And finally, for the last one, GPT with skills just does this same template that it reuses over and over again. And this is a band concert website. And GPT does the 4 sections that he usually does, cards with overstates. Okay, this time the UI kind of works. We still don't have overstates on the top nav bar. Okay, we have an overstate here. The like is working, which is also interesting. Learn about hosting does not have an overstate. And Claude no scales. You can see that they are trying to basically have a similar structure. So you can choose a date, then you have cards showing the rooms, and then you have information area. And the one that Claude did with skills was for a way bolder approach. The font is different than usual, kind of takes a bet on a more risky design, and I like it. I think that the font is very interesting. Once again, it has overstates everywhere. And yeah, everything is working. The cards are animated. And I saw a lot of these bento, or I'm not even sure what to call these sections, across the different Claude designs. I think we have seen it like 3 or 2 times. And these areas are very weird. I'm not sure what the idea behind is, but I don't think they look good. But overall, we can see that that in terms of UX, in terms of the buttons having overstates, clicking states, Claude is more careful. But also Claude likes to write a lot on the websites, have a lot of sections. If the idea was to use AI to quickly make a starter kit to do a website or an app or something else, then you need to balance out what exactly do you want. Do you want more diverse templates that end up having more information that you may later have to remove? Or you want like a simpler, not as risky design that can serve as a stepping stone for you to do the rest of your work yourself? And I guess this will be the main difference that we saw between Sol and Claude. But yeah, overall, I think that if you can, you should use both models, because that's the biggest strength on having different models to do different things. And if you do this kind of work for clients where they ask you for a website and you build this, of course, it's fine to use one of these models to get the template going, but then you really need to proofread everything, check if the UI and the UX make sense, if the layout is making sense, if you have like random cards where they don't need to be, or random information where they don't need to be. So yeah, the models are getting way better at one-shotting things. I still think that human input and iterating over this a couple of times with the model is still needed, at least for this kind of creative work. You can go to frontend design comparison.vercel.app. And if you maybe have more ideas to test the models in different aspects, I'll also like to know it. So yeah, I'll see you in the next dimension.